Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainashev and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Hey, waka waka.
I think you got to drop the Fozzie. You either got to go Bullwinkle or, I think you should do Bullwinkle saying Greetings, Cretans. Go ahead.
Let's see. No, I can't think of the voice.
Bullwinkle couldn't do Greetings, Cretans?
I don't think he can wrap his muzzle around it. Greetings, Cretans.
There you go. You're getting close. You work on it. I think that's okay. The key right there.
I'll practice on the kids.
How about Fozzie doing Greetings, Cretans? Limited vocabulary.
Yeah.
I can only impersonate with certain words.
Yeah. Something wrapping your head around it.
That's funny.
Oh, I got my energy back up. This is because we're actually doing 3 shows in a row here in order to delve. I'm going to be on a road trip. A friend came in from out of town. Yeah, I mean
SoCal Fest.
We're having to deal with a lot of other events that are keeping us from doing shows. So we got to do like 3 shows in a row. I didn't drink any beer like the whole show, and I've been drinking this Monster Energy drink.
Oh man.
Sipping on this thing, going, "Oh, this will keep me awake." I was falling asleep. And now Jay poured me his Mirapon clone, which I must say is a very well brewed beer.
Thank you.
There is no fermentation problem with this whatsoever. This is a really wort production or anything. This is excellent. This is really well done. We're questioning whether the bittering is correct for Mirror Pond, but as a beer itself, I mean, it's really good. It's really drinkable.
All right, thank you.
Excellent
Sounds
beer.
good.
It's the first time I used the Mr. Malty pitching rate calculator. For one, I'll admit to that.
There you go. See, problem solved.
So I had a nice 2-liter starter for this, and
that's really good.
What else did I do differently? I don't know. I paid attention, I guess.
Yeah, it's like perfectly produced.
All right.
It could be the Blickman Auto Sparger on your system.
That could have been that.
Could have been that.
Oh, I also used the Therminator to chill it.
There you go.
And I'll tell you, now we've had chilling problems forever around here. Our water comes out pretty warm, and we can't get below 80. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we were letting the beer sit overnight, which is what happened with my last clone.
And you get a little contamination. I mean,
right.
It just takes a couple of specks of dust to start things off.
And because it was us weighing, okay, pitch at temperature or pitch warm, and we weighed and anyway. So this time, oh no, man, that Therminator, we got down below 7. I think we got to 68.
There you go.
So, and I wanted to pitch at 66, so I just cranked up the conical. It got it down to 66 in a couple more hours. And pitched that.
Now that I got my new Blickman top tier system, I'm thinking I'm going to use the his hop stopper.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask him for a Therminator.
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna pump the wort out of there through the Therminator and hop stopper through the Therminator and back into the kettle. I'm going to do my whirlpool thingy.
Talk to Chad.
Using the Therminator. Did you guys try it?
I don't know if he did it, but he said he was going to try it.
Yeah.
He wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to keep your whirlpool.
Right. I like the whirlpool.
Yeah.
But I think you can trap a lot of hop aromatics that way.
Right.
But I like the idea of the Therminator and the being able to hit that hop stopper thing is supposed to stop like masses of hops.
Right.
So that's one of the new things he's invented. The guy's always thinking.
Hop
Guy's always thinking.
Yeah.
So, and we got to try that too. We have that, and I was able to really from the time that the wort chilled to your glass, it's been a closed system entirely.
Yeah, there's not a single spoilage organism in this thing that I don't detect anything off in any way.
Right. Well, all right.
I think this is the best beer you've ever brewed.
That's possible. Thank you.
Really,
I'm happy with it. I'm just not happy with the bitterness. I wish it was a little maltier.
You were targeting something else, but as a beer itself, I really like this. I could drink 5 gallons of this.
Okay.
I really could.
Well, let's get started.
And I think, Tasty or Doc or, anybody else, Chad or anybody else that's been, Mraz, a lot of good brewers, they'd all be very proud of putting this out.
Okay. Well, you know what? I will bring it down to the SoCal Homebrew Festival then, and it will be, I think it will only be the second beer I've ever made that I shared. So how about that? We'll do that.
It's really good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's really well brewed. That would do well in competition too.
Chad wanted me to enter it, but I wouldn't have been I would have had to really rush it, and he wanted
just
me to
make sure you save some for the show, the Canadian Brewing Show.
I'll bring a whole keg. I'll save.
Do a tasty thing. He goes, I think there's still some left in the keg. There's enough for the show. I'm like, no, take it offline. Take it offline. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh no, a few more pints won't hurt.
I'll save it.
Giving away a BNA 4. What are you doing?
Right.
That Tasty and his generosity. What the hell's the matter with that boy?
Big pain in the ass.
Giving away beer. What's the matter with him? All right. Anyways, so we mentioned Blickman, and Blickman's our sponsor for the show. www.blickmanengineering.com. That's Blickman with 2 N's, and engineering with, I don't know, how many N's are in engineering? A couple.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, John.
A couple. And spoken like a true engineer.
Yeah.
He's got a precise number for it.
Yeah.
2.75. Go by the website, check it out. Lots of great products, and the cool thing about them is they're always coming out with new products. That guy is always thinking. I ran into him. I knew John Blickman. A little bit, ran into him with various things, but where it really came to where we got to hang out a bunch was at Northern Brewer in Milwaukee at the grand opening store. Went out there, hung out with him a bunch. Really liked the guy.
Oh yeah, he's fun.
He's a lot of fun. He's a really interesting, thoughtful guy, and a lot of fun.
You'll see. Come to NHC and hang out with John, and he's a fun guy. Good guy.
Well, and he's also, very
geeks like us.
Well, I think he's very polite. He's very, professional. And he'll, if you have that kind of relationship with him, that's how he'll be.
Right.
He's a professional type of person.
But then you can tell him a good dick joke too.
Right, and he won't be offended. He'll have fun with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. So I'm really glad that he's sponsoring the show. So if you enjoy it too, if you appreciate the fact that John Blickman's paying for the show, so you don't have to, send him an email. It's the least you could do. How much does it take you to type up an email and send it to him? Say, hey, thank you, I really appreciate it. Go check out their products at the store. If you like something, buy it. If you don't buy it. But I don't think that's exactly why he's doing it. I think he's trying to help support something that he figures is good for the community. So he's all about that. Very cool. All right, this is our Q&A show. We like to every once in a while do a show where we answer just any question from the listeners, and there's a bunch. So let's just get cracking.
Okay. And you can join the chat. Just hit the chat now button if you're listening at home, and you can get questions through live and during the show. We don't take calls. I don't have a call screener, but you just type them in. I'll get it asked. All right, first question comes from Colin, and he's got a question about whirlpooling for you guys. He hears all the time that it's a great way to, clump the post-boil solids in the kettle.
Right.
But what he can't seem to find is a good method to create the whirlpool. Mm-hmm. So what are different ways to create a whirlpool in our homebrew setup?
Well, I started messing with this early on, and also the More Beer guys were trying put a tangential port on their kettles, you would pump the wort back in, and it would, like a professional system. And they're like, wow, it takes a really big pump to get to make it work. So they tried it, and they're like, oh, you really, the cost of the pump, people aren't going to want to do it. So they kind of backed off on that. So I was really interested in that, and I was having trouble cooling. And I was using an immersion chiller, and what I decided was, okay, I will, I'll rock the keg around, because if you get things moving, if you shake the chiller, or you can actually, if you're willing to screw around with a 10 gallons of boiling liquid, you can actually tilt the pot back and forth and get a whirlpool going. Every once in a while, I slosh some boiling liquid on my arms. And so I thought, nah, it's messy, not the way to do it. So I went to the whirlpool chiller thing, where I take wort out, from the valve out through a pump, and then I pump it back in through a little J-shaped piece of copper tubing. That works quite well. You can actually get a pretty decent whirlpool going. The other thing you can do is take the lid off, which I don't recommend, and stir it with a spoon. Now, if it's boiling hot and you want to go ahead and stir it, before it's chilled down, you can go ahead and you can build up a whirlpool that way, take the spoon out, put the lid back on, and the whirlpool will cause things to go. All right, maybe we should talk about the whole purpose of the whirlpool and how the whirlpool works. I think a lot of people feel that if they don't see like a vortex of death in the center of the liquid, that a whirlpool is not working. You don't need that. Really, the way a whirlpool works is the speed of the liquid around the outside of the pot is much faster than the speed of the liquid in the center of the pot. The liquid in the center of the pot is barely moving. The further out towards the edges you get, the faster that liquid is moving if you start swirling it in a circle. As long as the speed at the outer sides of the liquid are fast enough to keep the particles in suspension and from just dropping straight down to the bottom, which is almost any speed, believe it, because the particles are fairly light in the brewery, then what will happen is the particles will migrate to the slower moving wort. They'll get to the center where they will drop straight down, because that wort's not moving in the exact middle of the wort. That's how the whirlpool works. Okay. And there's a much more scientific way, and John probably has the formulas to do this. But that's essentially what happens. So you really just need to get it moving. There's no vortex in the middle. I think a little bit faster may help, but it can be pretty darn slow. It doesn't have to be anything really dramatic, and that. I
was going to say to get technical, use a spoon.
Right.
I mean, just get the stir in a consistent speed around the outside of the pot, and get all the wort moving, same speed. Don't stir back and forth. You want to keep stirring in a circle, and get all the wort moving in a nice steady circle. And you are whirlpooling. You don't need the vortex. It doesn't need to be super fast. It just needs to be all moving, and you're going to need to do it for a couple minutes to get everything to settle out in the center. But it's not like it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's stirring a decoction or anything. It's just a matter of getting all the wort moving and giving it some time to all settle down in the center.
Well, and be careful. Some of you guys I know might be using like those Camp Chef burners and things like that. I've had those things. Right. If you don't have your pot on a steady,
like a Blickman top tier.
Exactly. Then I just want to put it out there. I know it's obvious, but be careful, because I've had some
hot and dangerous.
Yeah,
liquid transfers heat so rapidly.
Yeah.
to flesh.
Yeah,
you got to be really careful.
Right. And then if I could just reiterate the spoon method, just do it hot, right at flame out, right? Jamil, that's when I could do it. At flame out, I can go in there and I can stir it up for a couple minutes, and then put the lid on, and then do my chilling after the fact, right?
Look at Justin; he's jumping right in with the appropriate advice here.
I got the basics down. That's why.
I think making a really good beer is like giving them wings.
Yeah, how about
He's
that?
flying now, I'm telling you.
Okay,
Pretty soon
and
he's
then
going to have to come up with his own greeting.
oh man, I don't know if I could do that, Palmer.
Greetings, schmooze.
Yeah. Okay, and then a follow-up question: how long do we let this whirlpool go for to get the desired effect?
Good question.
3.4 to 7.
10 to the...
Yeah.
Well, the good thing about Jamil's chiller / whirlpool setup that you can get at More Beer is when I'm done chilling is when I'm done whirlpooling.
Right.
So I just go until the beer's at the desired temp, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. It's going to whirlpool the whole time.
Right. Yeah, generally, the bigger brewers, they'll do, like a 30-minute whirlpool, things like that. Let experience be your guide. If you have a reason to do less, then see if that works for you. If you can, if that doesn't work, make it a little longer. But generally, half an hour will definitely do it. 15 minutes may be plenty. It depends on how clear you need the wort. Now, one thing that happens is that pile starts to form in the middle, but it's not going to stack up like a column of Legos. It's going to form out into a pile in the center, and so you will have some material out that travels out to the sides a little bit. When you start to run your wort off from the kettle, run it off slowly. You don't want to disturb that pile and suck the top of the pile off into what you run out. If you run it off slowly, generally the pile will settle and you'll get a nice clean runoff. The other thing about whirlpool is a lot of people believe that their assumption is, you run it out while the whirlpool is going. No. You run the whirlpool and let all the stuff settle. You can turn off the whirlpool, let everything settle and solidify on the bottom, and then run your wort out. So what I do is I run the whirlpool. And there's stuff near in the column that was traveling to the center. Let it settle for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then run your wort out. And you shouldn't have any problems. If you run off slowly, you should be able to kind of monitor. If you go really fast, you'll pull that junk out. If you go slow, you should run brilliantly clear wort out.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, when I'm stirring in a converted keg or in one of the Boilermaker pots, I'm only stirring for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and that does the job. For most of it, you get the wort moving for that amount of time, and then put the lid on, let it just slow down and settle, and you can slowly pour off clear wort after that. I don't think you need to go. You don't need to be stirring for 15 or 30 minutes. Let it settle for 15 minutes. But you don't need to agitate the wort that long. We're not talking about 50 gallons of wort. We're talking about 5 or 10.
Well, and I suppose it depends also on the width of your kettle. The broader your kettle, the more distance the bits have to travel to the center.
Right.
So that would be one thing as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so, those little particles, it's whirling fast, and they tend to just shear off into the slower lanes. And, that's where it's, they want to settle. So that's how it works. All right, next question.
Okay, yeah, let's get in one more before the break. Listener in the chat room, right now, I'm fermenting a Hefeweizen right now. And this will be my first time kegging. Mm-hmm. My question is, should I do a secondary? I'm confused as to the yeast and keeping this style of beer cloudy.
Generally, never do a secondary.
Even with other styles, you're saying?
Right. Unless you got some reason to keep it in the fermenter at fermentation temperature for a long time, then you want to separate out for fruit or something like that. Then fine. But generally, you don't. The wheat beer should ferment fairly. If you've pitched a healthy, correct amount of yeast, it should ferment fairly fast. It should be ready to go, within a week, 10 days or so. When it's done completely fermenting, just go ahead and transfer it to a keg.
Okay.
Yeah.
And good to go.
No secondary for hef.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's take a short break. I'll go get another beer, and we'll be right back.
Brew right. Brew smart.
Brew strong. This is Brew Strong.
The cutting-edge equipment from Blickman Engineering is designed by brewers to make your brew day shorter, more enjoyable, and to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge. Calling all homebrewers. Entries for the Samuel Adams Longshot American Homebrew Contest are due May 17th through May 28th. There's still time to get your beers entered. This year, the Homebrew Contest is all about Category 23, specialty beers. So start being creative and brew up a beer that doesn't fit into any of the traditional BJCP style categories. Let your creative juices flow and enter your Category 23 homebrew. Here's your chance to have your beer brewed, packaged, and nationally distributed in the 2011 Longshot package. And 4 finalists will be awarded a trip to the 2010 Great American Beer Festival in Denver, Colorado, where Samuel Adams will announce the winners. Visit SamuelAdams.com for all the details. Get your bottles in by May 28th. And as always, the entry fee is free. The Samuel Adams Longshot American Homebrew Contest. This year's Longshot could be all yours.
Downtown Joe's, located in the historic Oberon building in beautiful downtown Napa, California, offers an award-winning brew pub experience from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. For 15 years at the corner of 2nd and Main, Downtown Joe's has been voted Best Night Spot 7 times and Best Brew Pub for the last 4 years in a row. Brewmaster Colin Kaminsky's handcrafted ales, like his Tailwagon Amber Ale and Catherine the Great Imperial Stout, are the perfect accent to riverside dining, live music, and a relaxing outdoor patio. Don't miss the Beer of the Month, special rotating taps, and happy hour all day Mondays. Visit downtownjoes.com to make reservations, peruse their extensive calendar of events, or just read more about their fantastic beers. Come enjoy the fine beer, food, and music. Downtown Joe's, the award-winning brew pub where you'll feel at home.
And now, Northern Brewer brings you another installment of The Time Brewers. 3 brewers, 3 different eras, all caught in the same fermento-chronological vortex, traveling through time, righting brewing wrongs, and bringing beery wisdom to where and whenever it may be needed. Journey now with Dr. Jean de Klerk.
Greetings, listeners.
20th century Belgian super brewing scientist.
Please, the yeast and the enzymes do the hard work. I am merely a facilitator.
Eisbach.
What?
21st century Norwegian American homebrewer rapper from St. Paul.
Listen, I bust the attenuation maximums and my Yakima magnums make my lager so smooth it's like a laxative. My spit got that static power after I mash for an hour. I got naked ladies in my brew room all covered in hot flowers. I swing a propagation flask like a 5-liter dick. Get your nasty mid-drinking group on ass back to 1026, fool.
And Brother Abelard,
Art thou a witch? Begone!
12th century English monk and perpetuator of brewing superstition.
My holy rod of divine babbling shall maketh any ale to froth by the grace of heaven, and a modicum of bog myrtle hurts not either.
Brought to you by Northern Brewer, your one-stop homebrew supplier throughout the entire fermento chronosphere. The widest selection of quality malt, hops, yeast, and equipment with $7.99 flat rate shipping. Tune in next time for more Time Brewers!
Hilo, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get any better than this, baby.
It's the Brewing Network.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
See how much more energy I have once I have beer? It's completely... My wife was telling me, she's like, well, people with ADD, the effect of caffeine doesn't really work on them, and one of the signs of ADD is like when you have caffeine and it like puts you to sleep.
Right.
And that's essentially what happens to me. I drank one of these Monster Energy things for the first 2 shows, and I was like nodding off. Justin turned on the AC. He's like, wake up, wake the fuck up. He's like slapping me around. He's like, come on. Put a beer in me, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. It's nature's sort of energy drink.
Right. Well, I listened back to the previous shows. I'm thinking, oh, I sound trashed. I'm falling asleep. No, I can't be drinking any beer. I need to like an energy drink.
Right.
Nah, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
I need beer.
Good effort, Jamil. It was a nice experiment.
I tried.
Yeah.
But the reality is I need beer to do these shows. That's how this body's tuned.
It's a finely tuned machine.
Finely tuned machine that runs on beer.
Yeah.
So, there's a reason why I'm here, and it's the beer. All right, next question.
Okay, Steve wrote in this week. And by the way, when we do these Q&A shows, you can write to brewstrong@thebrewingnetwork.com or feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com, whichever you remember. They both get to us here.
We're getting a live chat, and, listen live, and,
And do it that way. We got a lot coming in today for that, too. Okay, Steve wrote in this week... 2-part question about hydrometers. Why does it seem my measurements swing more than expected due to the brewing process? In other words, I take a sample pre-boil to determine when my 90-minute start for hop additions, etc., and I'm low. So I boil down or add some DME.
Yeah.
Then I finish, and my OG is high, like a 1.5 Plato. So I add water. So I guess he's wondering why he's not able to dial it in there. And is it a measurement problem or is it a process problem?
I'd say it's a evaporation rate process problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
That's probably it. If he's a couple points low at the beginning, then may want to look at
sparge rates.
Sparge rate, yeah.
Crush?
What that's saying is that his efficiency is less than he's anticipating. So it could be sparge rate, it could be crush.
And you should dial in that part of his process.
Yeah.
Or adjust his predicted efficiency.
Yeah. And then, so if he's got so he's coming a little low. He's adding some DME, and then he comes out a little high at the end. It sounds like he's got a...
Don't add the DME.
Yeah.
Just boil like you're normally doing. You'll end up right exactly where you should be.
And that doesn't affect, his bittering additions, for example, because they're going to be in there longer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But a couple of points aren't going to swing it that much.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right. Yeah, sugar concentration affects utilization, but... it's not that big a deal.
Okay.
And, if you're doing something really delicate that has a low hopping, or mid hopping. Maybe that's a if you're really trying to dial something in like we do on the Clone Brew show, where you have to be dead on, or it's not cloned. Then it matters. But if you're brewing a pale ale IPA and you have a difference of 2, 3, 4 IBUs, doesn't matter. Who cares? I mean, you're going to be like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was shooting for.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about that. But there's various parts of the puzzle. One is the efficiency of the mash and what you're getting out of there. Now, if you want to have a little higher, maybe you add a little more grain and you're right at that number. But the other number that comes in is your boil rate, and what kind of evaporation rate you're getting over the course of your boil. And that may be higher than he's dialed in for, or that his brewing software is saying. The mash may be he's not getting the efficiency that his brewing software is saying. He's not getting the boil rate, that he's getting a higher boil rate than his or evaporation rate than his software is saying. And then those two things are kind of counter to each other. So you dial in each portion, and keep in mind, another thing we've learned off of the Canyon Brew It shows is, you can be 10 points off on your original gravity. You can still have a beer that seems identical to another beer just because of how fermentation proceeds and things like that.
Right.
So it's not that big a deal. You don't have to be exactly on the money unless you're a commercial brewer and trying to do something identical. If you're within a few points, it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. And then just quickly, his second part of the question is. What depth do I take my samples, both from the kettle and the fermenter? Is there a difference between the gravity at the top or the middle?
There shouldn't be if you're stirring enough. It should be homogeneous.
Or if it's boiling. If you're getting a roiling boil, it's mixed.
Okay. And the same with your fermenter, right? Because that's been thoroughly mixed by the yeast, so there's no difference there.
The only thing I'd say is those folks dealing with extract and doing partial boils, you're doing a high gravity beer and you lay in a big thick syrupy dose of extract into your fermenter and then you add water on top. If you haven't mixed it thoroughly, that's when you're all messed up. I mean, that sugar is so hard to mix back up throughout the liquid without really inverting it and shaking the daylights out of it. It tends to layer down there pretty bad.
Okay. All right. So that was from Steve. Thanks for writing in, Steve. Tom wrote in this week. Love the show, especially the package Gasm-Ganza.
Thank you.
He says, my question is a little bit about that. He's wondering. He says he can't find much info in the forum about using carbonated water to make some of my beers lighter and lower in alcohol without losing too much flavor or ruining the beer. He says he heard Tasty talk about it a bit during his when he did a Dortmunder for a golf tournament.
Right.
So I've never even heard of this. I don't remember Tasty talking about that. What is the deal with using carbonated water in beer?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be carbonated. I mean, you could add just water to your beer and then carbonate the whole thing.
I see.
In a keg. That's fine. The thing is, think about it like soda. They provide a syrup, you blend it with carbonated water, and you got soda, right? Yeah. The syrup is much thicker and concentrated in flavor, and then when you dissolve it out, it's the right mix. Same thing happens on beer when they do commercial brewing. They're trying to make the most expensive part of the brewing is all this the footprint of the brewery and energy spent and equipment and stainless steel and all that. So they brew a concentrated beer and then they thin it out with water.
Okay.
To make the resulting beer. The thing you need to watch out for is, all right, you need to brew a beer with more flavor overall, the flavor that you're going to need for the final volume that you get, right, or the thinner beer that you get. And you need to be aware that when you ferment a higher gravity beer, you're going to get more, generally you're going to get more fermentation flavors. You're going to get more esters and fusels and things like that, which is fine. Those get thinned out as well, and maybe it matches what you're shooting for. But it's going to be a different set of compounds than you get probably just brewing it at the gravity to make whatever beer it would be.
Okay.
So if you're adding this, you just need to be careful that, everything. If the beer is perfect as it is, but too much alcohol, when you add water to it, it's going to thin out all the flavors. Bittering, sweetness, malt character, hop character, everything's going to get thinned out. So, if that's what you want, that you just add water, whatever percentage you want, and carbonate it or add carbonated water. Either way is fine. Doesn't make a difference. You can add distilled water. You can add RO water. You can add whatever your tap water is. I'd be careful with tap water because a lot of tap waters have, I would dechlorinate it first. I mean, the tap water I'm at now, the chlorine reek is horrendous.
Oh.
So, you at least carbon filter it. If it's real minerally, you may want to avoid that. It depends on the beer and the water that you're using.
Could you just go buy Calistoga carbonated,
I'd avoid Calistoga because that is like a spring water.
Okay.
I would use something that is like an Aquafina or something like that that's made from RO with minerals added back or just a distilled water.
Okay.
And then use that. Those spring waters tend to be real minerally.
Okay.
And if that's let's say you brewed Dortmunder and it had no mineral content and you wanted a little bit of mineral content, maybe you'd add spring water, and that would be a way to kind of tweak it. I just need to be do it by taste. I would set up a small sample and try that first before you commit to it. But again, generally, if you want to do this, you're going to brew a more flavor concentrated beer and dilute it down. Now, Tasty was doing this with Dortmunder.
Dortmunder.
He also did it with, I thought, a Pliny, and he made a Pliny Light. He added water to it and made to a Pliny clone and made the Pliny Light, and then really liked it, and then started brewing a similar batch along those lines.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things you can do. I would just be real careful.
And I could do it like day that I wanted it. In other words, it's not like Tasty did it for a golf game. If my Dortmunder keg is halfway empty, I could lighten it up just by throwing some carbonated water in.
Right.
And now I've got a lighter beer.
As long as you realize all the flavors that are in there are going to lighten up.
Yeah.
That can be a good thing. Especially I imagine you could take a barley wine and thin it out. But again, if you take a barley wine and you thin it out with water, the flavor is going to be different than if you took those same grains and brewed the whole thing and fermented out a larger batch.
Okay.
It's not going to be exactly the same. Anything to add, John, to that? Sorry, I was rambling.
It's going to change the balance. It's going to change the hop and malt balance. And it's but I think in general it sounds like if you want to take a Dortmunder and turn it into a lawnmower beer, or a strong pale ale and make it into a light pale ale, you can do that with water. Just add it to the keg and carbonate. I would also recommend distilled water or something that's been filtered, to minimize the mineral impact unless that's needed, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and beer's 90 whatever % water, so adding more water is not a problem.
Okay. Jetus in the chat room today has a question. He has an interesting question for you guys. He says, I'm a fermentation science major at Oregon State University, and I'm having a disagreement with a professor that I would like to resolve. So he's come to you guys. He told me that ester production during fermentation rises with cold temperatures, and the way to have less esters is a warmer fermentation temp. This seems backwards to anything I've heard before. Am I right?
The fermentation professors we deal with is like Charlie Bamforth, and that guy's always right.
That's right.
I would never disagree with the professor I deal with. Now, the thing is, your professor's right in that
esters are produced by yeast stress.
Right.
So if you stress the yeast cold, you can get a lot of esters. If you stress the yeast hot by excessive growth, you will also get a lot of esters. So kind of think of the bell curve, which end of the bell curve are you playing in.
Well, and, yeast growth ties up the production of a lot of the compounds that become esters later on. So actually, the more yeast grow, the less esters they're going to produce. However, the more yeast grow, the more fusel alcohols they produce, which are used in ester production. So it's fusel alcohols and acids, these organic acids, that form these esters. So, if you go too cold and you don't get any growth, you're going to or you get minimal growth, you're going to produce more esters. If you go too warm, you're going to produce more esters, like John's saying. There's a sweet spot, but, generally, ester production is reduced by higher growth.
Okay.
And fusel alcohols are increased, and the opposite is true.
All right. He does have a follow-up question. Apparently, Jesus is arguing with everybody. He's also having a disagreement with a student.
A true Brewing Network listener.
He's having a disagreement with a student about the diastatic power of wheat malt. According to Palmer's book, wheat malt and barley have the same diastatic power. The student says to brew a 100% wheat beer, you have to add enzymes to the mash because the diastatic power of wheat is lower than barley. Is this true?
Not according to the numbers. If you look at the malt analysis sheet of a wheat malt versus a barley malt, they're about the same. It's like 120, 140 degrees Lintner. So it's not like a Munich malt where you've got 40 degrees Lintner diastatic power. Wheat malt should be fully self-converting. You shouldn't need to add enzymes.
Well, and I suppose it depends on what wheat malt you have. Some will be higher, some will be lower, but on average, it should self-convert. I think Moylan's does their wheat wine, which is fantastic, and that's 100% wheat malt. I don't think they use enzymes on that. As long as the diastatic power is the same, it should convert, like John's saying. So I've done 100% wheat, and I got it to convert. I imagine it converted fully, and I never tested, but I just left it a little longer, just kind of, but I probably didn't need to. If the diastatic power is the same, and it converts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even 100% Munich converts. I've done plenty of 100% Munich beers, which is if you're doing a Munich Dunkel, you want to use 100% Munich. Well, you use a splash of Carafa Special, but it's all Munich malt, and that converts no problem whatsoever. And that's a much lower diastatic power. So, if it's higher than that, I guarantee you the wheat will convert.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only caveat to my statement was that I don't know that the proportion of enzymes in wheat malt is the same as in barley malt. Mm-hmm. So it could be, a different proportion of alpha to beta amylase, which could result in a little different fermentation character. But I've
the conversion of starches is the diastatic power, right? So it'll convert. Whatever the fermentability is like a whole different thing.
Yeah, I mean, you read Kuhn's or German brewing texts where they're making wheat beers. There's no mention of added enzymes, or different brewing practices between wheat Weizen beer versus Pilsner beer. Mm-hmm. It's 100% malt and off you go.
Right. Yeah, I think the student's wrong in that case.
Okay.
So professor right, student wrong.
Good.
It's also the safer way to go for a good grade.
For your grade, right. All right, Watkins is in the chat room today, and he's got a question for Jamil. He says, I've got a 3-liter starter going right now, but I've moved my brew day to today instead of tomorrow, so I don't have time to chill and decant my starter. Mm-hmm. Do you think that a 3-liter starter is too much to add to a 5-gallon batch?
Yeah, I do. Depends on how you made the starter. The way I make my starter wort is I take DME and I measure it out. I add some water and some servomyces, and then I put it in a pressure cooker, and it cooks the hell out of it and makes it real caramelized and not great stuff. And I don't want to add more than 5% of that to my beer. If you're kind of making your starter wort similar to your way you make wort for your beer, and you don't oxidize the daylights out of it with like aeration or stir plate, then I think you get away with it.
Okay.
What style of beer is he making?
Yeah, he didn't
That's
say.
a good question too.
He did have a follow-up. He wants to know, would it be better to then keep the wort at lager temps and pitch tomorrow morning instead, so that he could chill and decant his starter?
Yeah, it depends. If he's sure that his sanitation is perfect, then that's what I would do. Mm-hmm. If it's questionable, then I'd just go ahead and toss it all in. I guess then it doesn't matter what you do.
He says his starter was made with a pressure cooker too.
I would put it in the freezer and try and
try to do it.
See, the whole problem though with that is you don't want to drop the temperature of your yeast too dramatically. What happens when you radically lower or raise the temperature of your yeast is that they start expressing these heat shock proteins. Okay, either cooling or raising, and it really affects the yeast and the performance of the yeast going forward. And it takes a lot of energy out of the yeast to do that. So,
see, I don't do it at all because I feel like I've got this yeast starter going and my yeast alive and well.
Right.
I just turn off the stir plate several hours before.
Yeah.
And decant off as much as I don't decant all of it like you guys do. I try to get like half of it gone because I'm nervous about chilling it at all.
Sure. Well, and if if you've waited long enough so all the fermentation's done and it's just the stir plate keeping things in suspension, then yeah. If it's only been going a short period of time, how long has the starter been going? Does he say?
He doesn't say. He does say he's making a light pale ale, so he keeps stacking up the odds against him.
Yeah.
I'd stick it in the refrigerator and wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, if he's making a starter and doing all this, his sanitation's probably pretty good. Cap it.
I'm not sure I wouldn't have done what Justin's suggesting here, of just let it settle out as much as it will, decant that portion off.
Yeah.
If you can get down to a liter or so, then or liter and a half, maybe it's okay.
So it's been going for 24 hours, and that's about how mine was when I did it.
Really, all the growth has already occurred.
Okay.
24 hours.
Just take it off that stir plate.
Yeah, it's done at that point. You never get growth past like 36 hours or so, unless you really just pitch a tiny little bit of yeast into a big thing of wort.
Okay.
Even then, it's pretty much done at that point. God, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do what you're doing. He's brewing right now?
Yeah, I think so.
So, turn off the stir plate.
He says he's going to pull adjusted now. This is terrible advice.
No, turn it. Well, based on this last beer, I'm much more enthusiastic.
Well, and because you made there is that difference between is the starter still going on its own, or is it sitting at the bottom and just a stir plate? And in my case, the stir bar was doing all the work.
Right. And you shut it off, and everything starts to settle out. Yeah, I'd shut it off, put it in the fridge, and at the end of your brew day, see how much has settled out, and you can decant off. The top portion and then pitch the rest. Generally when I'm making starters, what I do, there's starters for growing yeast, there's starters for kind of making everything healthy and active. If I'm looking for growth, then I, put it in the fridge, I chill it, and I just get the yeast. And then the day of, I love to put that yeast back into a little bit of wort, just like a pint, and get it active the day of, a few hours before I pitch, and then toss the whole thing in. Okay. And you get the best of both worlds, I think.
All right, good. Thunder Chicken is in the chat room. He's got a sparge question.
TC.
Says we're always told to sparge at a certain temperature. I've been noticing that with 180 degrees Fahrenheit sparge water, that my mash temperature only raises to the lower 160s. What temp should the mash be when running off?
Any temperature you want, right, John?
Yeah, somewhere up there. I mean, that's 160 is fine. I mean,
doesn't have to be anything.
Yeah,
it can be anything you want. What I do is I'll ramp up the temp. I'll recirculate through the herms and raise the temperature up to 168, and then you sparge with 170 something water. And the only reason is to stop enzymatic reaction, and then to thin out the sugar so it runs off easier. But you don't even have to do that. You just run into the kettle. Fire up the kettle if you want to stop enzymatic reactions or action, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean we talk about not exceeding like mash temperature 170 to reduce tannin extraction and so on, but or don't add boiling water. Don't use boiling water as your sparge. Keep it down to like 180 or less.
pH,
but yeah, something like that.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Something like that.
Hey, there's no magic temperature for runoff. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Warm it up. You get a little easier. A little better fluidity of the sugars.
Mm-hmm.
But and you by mashing out like that, you set your fermentability. But I wouldn't worry about that. You're only getting up to about 160 with your mash temperature. That's fine.
Okay. Well, in TC, you better make it out to Minneapolis and join up with us there. Have some beers. Have some BNA 5.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do more questions. Back after this.
Keep your carboy cap on. This is Brew Strong.
We'll be right back.
Do you support the Brewing Network? Do you brew your own? Are you looking for an economical, fun, and legal way to do both? Subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine and do just that. All year long, Brew Your Own will surprise you, entertain you, and educate you with articles on beer and brewing from authors like the Brewing Network's very own Jamel Zalashev and John Palmer. Each issue is a full pint of brewing techniques, homebrew stories, tips and photos, projects to make yourself, and recipes for the avid home brewer. Get your tough questions answered by Mr. Wizard, and polish your style accuracy with Jamel. A portion of every subscription goes to the Brewing Network, so subscribe today at byo.com/Brewing Network, or just click the BYO logo on the Brewing Network homepage and support a fantastic hobby and your favorite broadcaster. Brew Your Own, the how-to homebrew beer magazine.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmaster's database if you want. And the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmaster's Warehouse is run the way a home brewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmaster's Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
This month, More Beer wants to introduce you to Ryan Bartow, Head of Customer Service at More Beer.
Working at More Beer means a lot to me. There's nothing better than being there where everything comes right in. a pretty fun job.
Here are Ryan's top 5 more beer innovations he can't brew without.
Yeast starters. I like to use a 5,000 milliliter flask. Of course, you can't do anything without Star Sant. Pro Mash combined with a refractometer are always there on brew day. And then, of course, the inline thermometer. It's a new product we're releasing this month.
All of Ryan's favorites are on sale this month only. Check out Ryan's picks right now at morebeer.com.
Boy, my wish for the people that trust me is just that they make great beer as a result. I'd love to see everybody making good beer that finishes out. Fermentation is what it really all comes down to.
Hurry to morebeer.com for the best innovations and people in homebrewing. Morebeer.com.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew strong.
All right, we're doing a live Q&A show, and Justin and I are talking, and maybe what we need is a Q&A Ganza, where
Q&A Ganza. Okay.
There's a lot of questions, and we'll try and get to as many as we can, and if you got 3 questions, we'll hit maybe one of them, and then, because we're trying to get everybody in, and we really appreciate all the questions, and it's just wonderful of people to do this, but there's only so many we can do in a show, so maybe what we need to do is set up a series of 3 Q&A shows or something, so everybody can get their questions, because we want to answer them all, and I'd much rather answer questions on the show than in individual emails.
Yeah.
Because we do it on the show, if you've got the question, it's not a stupid question. It's a question that I guarantee 1,000 other homebrewers have. So it's great to do them on the show. All right. Next question.
Okay, Bike Foolery is in the chat, and he says, so many brewers just cover the carboy with foil for fermentation. When should I remove the foil to move the foil and exchange it with an airlock? Toward the end, middle, and is it okay to just put foil over the carboy too for fermentation?
Yeah, foil's fine. I think probably allows a little more O2 through than the airlock, but not a whole lot.
Okay.
Fermentation should be active to the end. If you have a long, kind of slowly blipping and blurping fermentation that's going months, then you've got other problems, and then foil would be a problem. But if you've got active fermentation up to the end, and then it finishes, and then you give it a day or 2, that's fine.
Okay.
I wouldn't even screw with removing the foil.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of thinking he meant like a loose foil cover at the beginning of fermentation, just to provide, bacterial contamination prevention, but allow, diffusion of oxygen into the headspace to, help the yeast.
Yeah.
Kind of an open fermentation situation.
Well, loose or tight, I think oxygen's going to be the same. I mean, unless you're putting like a rubber band or something around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take, saran wrap or aluminum foil with a rubber band around it on the top of the carboy, that's as sealed as an airlock would be.
Right, some of those plastic wraps are, impervious to O2, and they have a surface on them that actually adheres to the glass surface, a smooth surface, and provides a seal. And so, the thing about foil is no matter how tight you press that foil down, you're never going to get it. It doesn't adhere to the surface, so the oxygen just goes right through, right around that. So that's, but, as long as you see active fermentation, I really wouldn't worry about it. If you want to let something set for a while, then you can go ahead and swap it out for an airlock once you see active fermentation stop. But
okay. All right, I think it was BC Maui who in the chat room who asked, I'm getting a lot of hop material over to the fermenter. Is it better to use pellet hops in a bag or filter out this material in some other way?
Pellet hops in a bag will reduce the amount of carryover. Mixing your hops, both whole leaf and pellet, will do more because the whole leaf help filter it out there as you're draining your kettle.
Oh, that's a good point.
What's the Blickman hop
rocker? What is it?
Hop Rocket. The Hop Stopper is another fine product.
Yeah,
made by somebody else.
So Hop Rocket, it's a cool little device where on the Blickman they got a dip tube that comes out of the valve and goes down, right, to suck up the everything out of the kettle. And this hop screen device, this Hop Rocket, the dip tube goes inside there, and it's actually got different gradations of holes in it and a sleeve that goes up and down. And John Blickman was saying that he was doing like a Pliny the Elder type of cologne with pounds of pellet hops, and 95% of it didn't get through.
Okay.
And you can use this to filter out a ton of hops. What I do for my brewing so far, I've got one of these hop rockets. I haven't had a chance to set it up yet. I'm waiting to set up my Blickman top tier system. What I've been doing in the past is the Whirlpool chiller thing, where the pellet hops just go right through the pump, and then it gets Whirlpool and it all falls in the center. And that seems to work fairly well. I get clear wort out of the kettle using that.
Is there some disadvantage to using hop bags?
If you make the hop bags large enough so the hops are very loose inside there, I don't think there's a real disadvantage to it. If you get it to where they swell up with the liquid and they're tight in the bag at all, then you're losing utilization and other aspects like that. So
okay,
John.
Yeah, that's the disadvantage to a hop bag, is that if they're too tightly packed, then you won't get any diffusion out of the alpha out. Yeah, I've always used either a hop stopper. Unfortunately, I forget the name of the company, but which is a large stainless steel mesh screen that goes down the bottom of the kettle.
Yeah.
Or I've also used just copper pipe with holes drilled in it, kind of like a little manifold. That works real well. But I think for any boiling situation with the hops in the kettle, you got to whirlpool it first. Get the wort moving. Get most of the debris to come to the center, and then your whatever hop straining device you're using, whether it's a little manifold or whatever, will work better, and you'll keep the majority of your hop material out of the kettle, out of the fermenter.
Well, and let's look at kind of the reason why you want to avoid this. I think you get a little bit of hop material over into your fermenter, not a big deal. Even if it mixes in with the yeast, you can go ahead and rinse that yeast later on and get that hop material out of there if you want to repitch that yeast. If it's a huge amount, then maybe you can get some vegetal character from a large, excessive amount of hop leaf matter. But otherwise, not that big a deal. If you're getting the bulk of it out of there, then I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see. Another question came in through the email. This listener says, I'm planning on doing a party guile brew to make an American wheat, followed up by a Berliner Weiss. And I've got a question about the actual mashing process. So using a 10-gallon igloo, would I do a typical mash and then add hot liquor at the end of the mash so as to run off 7 gallons, or do a straight 7-gallon mash?
How many gallons of each is he doing?
Looks like 6, 7 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you wouldn't do... all right, so, yeah, your party guile... I'm not sure I understand the question 100%. You do them as two separate runoffs and two separate mashes.
Oh, it is. So maybe that's where you're confused. It's two separate mashes entirely.
Well, it's the same mash, but you're going to add liquid back to it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Versus
the second runnings is going to make the Berliner Weiss, and the first runnings is going to make the American.
But so I'm not sure if I understand the question. Would you add like all 13 gallons of liquid and then get it all uniform and then run off part and then run off part. No, you'd do your regular wheat beer, run that off as normal, and then you've got like spent grain sitting in your mash tun. You add water back to that.
Mm-hmm.
You recirculate it and do whatever you need to kind of get it all uniform again, and then you run that off into your second beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think for the two styles he's doing, if he's doing, how much I don't know how big his grain bill is, but if his first runnings are going to be like 1075, 1080.
You need to add water.
I think that's what he's getting at. Should he add? That's what it sounds like. His question is, since he's going to have a thick mash in a 10-gallon igloo, does he add water? Does he add liquor at the end?
Yeah, add water to the kettle.
To the kettle.
Yeah.
And he's going to thin down the first runnings to make the American wheat.
Got it.
And then sparge and probably get something more like 1030. For the second runnings, which could be used as is for the Berliner Weiss.
Right, which is perfect for the Berliner.
Okay, and then his question is, what temperature should that water be that he adds back? Does that matter?
Well, you add it to the kettle, so it could be anything.
Okay.
Because you're going to heat it up in the kettle.
Okay.
So you add it to the kettle, not to the... You thin out what's in the kettle to reach whatever your target gravity is. It should be higher than what you really need. The only thing is it just depends on... if you're not getting enough sugars out into there, if you don't have enough volume when you do the first runnings into the kettle, then you just go ahead and sparge like normal. You can batch or fly sparge or whatever to the grains in the mash and get more volume into where you end up with the right sugars. But if you end up with close to the volume and the gravity's high, just add water to the kettle. At any point, you can add water to the kettle.
Okay.
To get you to the volume and dilution that you need.
Yeah.
But the only time you can't is if what's in the kettle isn't enough sugar to support the volume that you need. And you can calculate that out. It's really easy. Your points of gravity versus your gallons of volume or liters of volume. And then, if you want to increase the volume, what gravity are you going to be at? It's simple math.
Okay.
And then, if you don't have enough sugar, then, you need to sparge more. Okay. All right, next question.
All right. Thirsty Dragon wants to know your thoughts now about better bottles, now that you've had a chance to use them for a while, JZ.
It really hasn't changed any since, I described it previously. That's what I'm using now. Is the better bottles.
The carboys is what you mean, right?
Yeah, they're like plastic carboys.
Yeah. You're not using the better bottle. Don't they have 12-ounce plastic bottles too? Or is it just carboys through them?
I don't know. Just carboys.
Okay.
Right. I'm just using those. They're lighter weight. I'm old and fat and ugly and stupid. All right, I'll throw them all out there.
Right.
And I'm wrong. You know what I realized? I'm pretty much... I figure I'm wrong about 50% of the time, and I'm right about 50% of the time.
Is that right?
And the one thing I desire in life is to be, towards the side of being right more often than I'm wrong.
Right.
So if I can do like a 51% right and a 49% wrong, well, I think I'm a winner.
Yeah.
You're really shooting high there.
Right.
That means you just got to change the people you hang out with, Jamil.
That's right. Can't be messing with you, Palmer, anymore. People who are right are just going to mess me up. You're dragging down my percentage.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
I think the real key is just stop being near your wife when you're trying to make a statement.
And I'm always wrong. That's the problem. Yep. No, my wife is lovely and lets me do all sorts of stupid things. I like the lightweight of the better bottles. I've just gone ahead and I put my carboys up on a high shelf somewhere where my fat old ass can't get to them.
Got it.
And I'm using the better bottles. They're lighter weight. The things that kill me about it is, the volume is not big enough. The guy who did this, I don't know, why he didn't do it, large enough. They should have made him 7-gallon. would have been perfect.
Okay.
But, I'm using like, anti-foam, and I'm, a little smaller batches, and, the advantages outweigh, doing a slightly smaller batch, and then I can't flame them, and, things like that. But, they're just much easier, and I like them. So I'm just using better bottles now.
Okay.
And everybody will have their own preference, but, I've never had any dangerous encounters with carboys like other people have, but they're heavier and they're just, I don't know.
Yeah, they're definitely risky. I was cleaning them just a couple weeks ago, and a couple times they went clink, and it's like, oh shit, almost broke. But
if I was starting out, I'd tell people to just do better bottles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good advice then.
Yeah.
Okay. I've only got a couple more. So let's do a break, and then we come back and get them.
All right, one more break,
yeah,
and then we'll be back with the rest of your questions after this.
Brew right. Brew smart.
Brew strong.
This is Brew Strong.
The cutting-edge equipment from Blickman Engineering is designed by brewers to make your brew day shorter, more enjoyable, and to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 10 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer at Brew for Your Die IPA in the Northeast, Northwest, parts of the Midwest, and Alaska, in cans and on draft. So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in the can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian 2-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to williamsbrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Hey, what are you doing, man?
writing a review of WLP 400.
What? You're reviewing yeast?
Yeah. White Labs has home brewer reviews of all their strains. Are you new to these interwebs? Check it out.
That's awesome.
White Labs, your source for great yeast, invites all brewers to visit whitelabs.com to read and write your own reviews of all their yeast strains. Get real-world tips and tricks from other brewers who have made the most of their vials and post your own experiences. It's another way White Labs brings you closer to the best yeast on the planet.
And send. There you go.
You misspelled flocculate, dude.
What?
White Labs. It's all in the vial.
This is www.thebrewingnetwork.com.
Sit down next to it, grab yourself a paper towel, and watch those yeast have sex.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing.
This is Brew Strong.
You know, I did have a nut thing going on a while back, and I survived that.
You're all right now?
I'm all right now. The nuts seem normal.
Things aren't all tied up anymore?
No. And,
it was a nut allergy, or?
I do. The funny thing is, I do have a nut allergy.
Do you?
I do. I'm a little allergic to nuts.
I think that just means you're straight.
Right. No. A long time ago, I was visiting the Hickory Apaches, and I had a whole bunch of pinyon nuts, and I got this allergic reaction to it. And ever since then, I couldn't eat certain types of nuts. So the only nuts I can suck on now are sunflower seeds. And see, they're like seeds; they're not nuts.
Right.
Certain nuts I can't. But I still love nuts.
Yeah.
I just I gotta go the other way.
Oh man.
I can't. I gotta I get the scratchy throat. My throat swells up.
Oh.
It's really horrible.
So you have to. A lot of foods say this food was packaged on the same machinery that nuts were processed on. You don't have to worry about that.
I really got to suck on some nuts to have it happen.
That direct contact.
Right. Yeah, I got to put the nuts in my mouth and chew on them before it really screws me up.
Okay.
But yeah. And if you want to meet me in my nut thing, then, come on out. I posted in the BrewingNetwork.com in the forums there, in the events section. I got this whole trip planned, 2,500 miles, 15 breweries, lots of opportunities to get drunk together. Me and Peter Simons, we're going to go out and see. And one of the things I think I mentioned this to you earlier is, if I was to take anybody on this trip with me, got to be British.
Right.
Stiff upper lip and all that sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
No whinging.
Right.
Because I know it's going to be, while as great as it sounds, there's going to be some horrible event that's going to happen. It's going to involve the toilet.
Right.
It's going to involve, explosions, failures of my 14-year-old RV.
Right.
God knows what's going to happen.
Hopefully not dismemberment.
Dismemberment. We're going to have to prostitute one or the other of us.
For gas money.
Yeah. Something's going to happen.
Right.
So if I'm going to take anybody, I'm going to take somebody who's British.
Right.
Stiff upper lip,
Yeah.
March on, no whinging.
Well, and I hear you might be picking up our friend Badrock in Colorado, too.
Right. I don't know if he hasn't responded back. He said he'd try and get off of work and
I think that's what he's waiting on. But he's a big dude who can take care of business.
Exactly. So, if the things with the Johns goes wrong, we'll send him out to straighten things out, collect the money.
It's good.
And if, and also Andy Wood, he's a teacher. So, you know what teachers do during the summer? A lot of this.
Jacking off, yeah.
If you're watching the video.
Yeah. Nothing to do.
Right, exactly. So he may actually come along.
That would be cool.
And he's got a sweet-looking, pretty mouth. I think we could sell him off as need be and, get out a lot of situations out of Andy Wood.
You got a purty mouth, Andy.
You got a purty mouth. All right. Next question for our Q&A show.
All right, last couple questions here. This listener just used kind of covered it a little bit in the beginning. Just used a March pump and the JZ chiller setup. How long do you let things rest after turning off the pump? and transfer into the fermenter?
20, 30 minutes. I shut it off, and then I go inside and rub one out or do whatever.
That doesn't take 20 minutes.
Make a sandwich.
2
yeah,
minutes.
That might take.
Make a sandwich. That's 28 minutes. Rub one out. That's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I go back out there.
Okay, 20 to 30. All right, here's an interesting one. I love the new technology that's coming out. Everything seems to be mobile. So Chad wrote in. He says, I've got an app on my iPod that claims to be able to tell me the OG of a beer if I can measure the FG and bricks on the refractometer.
Right.
Is this true, and are there limits?
Well, so what you can do is, and we use this for clone brewing all the time for the Can You Brew It show, is if you know the ABV, the alcohol content of a beer, ABV or ABW, alcohol by volume or weight, and you know what the finishing gravity of the beer is, which if you buy a commercial sample, you degas it, measure with your hydrometer, and that's your finishing gravity. If you know how much alcohol is in there and what your finishing gravity is, you know for a certainty what the starting gravity was. Okay. So, absolutely. And I assume that's what he's asking.
Yeah.
You can also convert between specific gravity bricks and Play-Doh. Those applications work as well. But
okay.
But ABV or your alcohol and your finishing gravity tells you what your starting gravity was. It's a scientific fact, isn't it, John?
Yep.
Okay, that's all we have time for today, guys. But there will be another Q&A show and possibly a Q&A gasm. Yeah. So
Palooza.
Right.
Q&A Palooza?
There you go. That might work.
TQ&A.
Q&A stock?
Q&A stock.
Then we have to get some hippie chicks in here.
Yeah, topless. Oh yeah. It's Q&A stock coming up.
Done.
That's all it takes now.
John Palmer will be coming up for that one.
Right. Well, and next show, based off of one of the questions we didn't get to this time, we're going to do a high gravity brewing show. That's going to be our next
there's
show,
a good one.
right?
That is a good one.
So we got a question in on the live chat, and we just can't do it justice in this quick format here. I think that deserves a whole show. So that's a good idea. Good
Comes
job.
up all the time. That's good.
All right. So that's a wrap on the Q&A show. Wrap on the package gasm. And, another lovely day in the studios in Pacheco. If you get a chance, make sure you hit our sponsor, BlickmanEngineering.com. Check out Brew Your Own magazine. There's the link there. There's also a link for the AHA. Huh? Sign up for the AHA. Get yourself a discount on the conference. Get yourself Zymergy magazine. It's all good stuff, and it goes to support the homebrewing hobby. Check out the Brewing Network store, thebrewingnetwork.com. Check out the store. It's good stuff. It's not, the shirts are high quality. This is not cheap fabric like I make for Mr. Malty. That's cheap-ass fabric.
We got the goods.
These are quality shirts, and they sell them cheap. I keep telling Justin, raise the frickin' price of the shirts, goddammit.
I know.
You're selling them too cheap. These are good quality stuff.
And
good
the store's
strong
full
shirts.
up. We have everything in right now.
All right.
So go now.
I need to refresh my wardrobe before our RV trip.
Yeah. We'll set you up.
All right. So check that out. You won't be disappointed. Buy any of it. If you don't like it, see me on the RV trip. I'll give you your money back, and I'll wear the shirt for God's sakes. All right. That does it for the Q&A show. And coming up next, if you're listening, is going to be High Gravity Brewing. That's going to be a few weeks from now, but podcast will be the next show up. Until then, make sure you snap yourself off a nice fresh piece.
And keep reaching for the stars.